Hello and welcome back to Motivated with Meg. This is episode 2 of season 0. Season 0 is all about building a solid foundation for the coming seasons where we'll experiment with things like eating and exercise. Why do we want to set a foundation? Well, because setting a foundation on how you approach your eating and exercise experiments is going to help you feel more empowered and also make sure that they are in line with your values, which is today's topic. It's one of the foundations that we want to talk about, which is aligning your goals and your habits and your day-to-day actions with your values. Because from my experience, when our goals, habits, and actions match up with what we truly value, we naturally feel more at ease and authentic in life. We begin to feel good from the inside out. But I've also found that when we ignore our values, the opposite happens. We often find ourselves feeling unsettled, frustrated, or even judgmental about our choices, which is why today's focus is values. And to set the stage for today's focus, I want to start off with an idea from James Clear. Clear suggests that every action we take is like casting a vote for the kind of person we want to become. This perspective can shift our focus from the pressure of achieving huge, immediate change to simply casting small positive votes each day. So if every choice is a vote, then by making value-driven choices, no matter how small, we're reinforcing who we are and who we wish to be. I shared my story in episode 1, or at least a part of my story, about my own struggles with food and body image, especially in college and the few years after, where I was caught up in this exhausting cycle of dieting, yo-yo dieting, cutting out food groups, tracking every calorie, going through rigorous workouts, all to lose weight as fast as possible. It was always about getting weight loss as fast as possible. For whatever was coming up in my life or for whatever reason, it was always like this high pressure hyper focus that came at a high emotional cost. I was often wrapped in guilt or shame and constantly felt like I wasn't measuring up. At the time, I wasn't even thinking about my values. It wasn't that I was casting votes to become this version of myself I didn't want to become necessarily. And that's me saying you don't have to sit here and guilt trip yourself if you've been casting votes that are leading you towards an area of life that you don't want to go towards. This podcast, this episode is about motivating you to bring awareness to, hey, what votes am I casting on the daily? And are they getting me where I want to go? If not, let's look at those and maybe cast some different votes without the guilt, the shame, or the judgment. I value my health deeply, but during my diet-obsessed years, my actions were definitely misaligned with that value. And instead, I would find myself just blindly chasing this vision of weight loss success without asking if it was aligned with what I truly believed in or with my values. And the truth is that I just wasn't even thinking about my values back then. I was really just hyper-focused on weight loss and had a very skewed mentality when it came to dieting and body image. And so if you're somebody who has had that in the past or is still in that mentality, hear me loud and clear that there's something else out there. I personally found that letting go of the unrealistic need to be perfect, especially in this area of my life, was crucial for me. I realized I could still enjoy things like Oreos, but in a balanced way that supports my health rather than derailing it. And so today, I'm inviting you to examine your own journey with food, body image, and diet culture, exercise, self-care in general. Reflect on the why behind your habits and your beliefs and your actions. Are they aligned with your values, or are they rooted in societal expectations that may not actually serve you? If you haven't thought about your values in a while, that's okay. Our values can shift over time as we change and as we grow and as we age. Some things like family or our health might always be a core value to who you are, while others, such as dietary choices or lifestyle preference, those can evolve based on your experiences and preferences and insights as you just continue to age and go through life. Sometimes life doesn't allow us to act in perfect alignment with our values, and that's okay. Part of this is just being okay with, hey, I don't have full control over everything that happens in life. There are things I control, and there are definitely things out of my control, and just recognizing what can I control, and then showing up and trying to do the best you can to do that without driving yourself crazy and doing so in alignment with your values. And so, for instance, maybe you value supporting local unions. but the only store near you isn't unionized. I grew up in this exact situation. I grew up in upstate New York, and my dad is a union guy, and the closest grocery store was like 10 miles from our house, and then from that it was like another 25 miles. So we went grocery shopping at the store that was nearest to us because we had to do that, especially back in the 90s. We couldn't just like have it delivered to our door. And so we had to shop at a non-unionized grocery store at times, right? And that was just the way the cookie crumbled at that time in life. Even though it was living out of alignment with my dad's values, that's what he had to do. And it kind of works that way sometimes. We don't always have choices. And sometimes we have choices and we still choose to live out of alignment with them, and that's okay. Like, you can value animal welfare, but find it hard to switch to a completely plant-based diet, and that doesn't make you a bad person. These aren't failures. They're just real life challenges. The goal is to be mindful of our values and make choices that honor them whenever we can, without overjudging the times when we can't. When it comes to health, dieting, and fitness, it's especially helpful to ask, is this in line with my values? If you value spending time with a loved one and also value feeling energized and refreshed the next morning, then let's have a scenario here, right? Those are two values and you really, really care about both of them. But your significant other has a weird work schedule, which means that the majority of the time that you have off together is this weird late night hours between like 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. that you could hang out. But you have to wake up for work at 6 a.m. Do you neglect your sleep to get more time with this person you care about, which is a value of yours, spending time with them? Or do you not spend as much time with them, neglecting that value of spending time with them, to honor the other value of feeling energized the next day? And this is where, it's really great to know your values, but you can have times in your life where you have a choice to make that conflicts with your values, and you still have to make that choice. Just like I was talking about with the grocery store and it being unionized or not. To give one more example, when it comes to like good night's sleep, right? I've seen people and done it myself where instead of like, hey, I'm tired and I need to go to bed, I'm like forcing myself to go do a workout of some sort because of how many calories I ate that day. And I was just not okay with it. And then didn't get a great night's sleep because after exercising, for me personally, I get energized. It doesn't make me want to go to sleep. It makes me energized. So then I was awake and couldn't fall asleep. And then I got a bad night's sleep. And then the next day I was really groggy, which led to more sugar cravings and other issues too. And so my value right there with my diet obsession and weight loss obsession at the time was misaligned, and I neglected my health, my sleep, in the name of a late night workout that wasn't necessary, right? It's not that movement's bad or exercise bad. I'm never saying that. I'm a personal trainer and a yoga instructor. I love being active. What I'm saying is that I didn't need to work out at 10 p.m. because I'd eaten X amount of calories that day. I needed rest. I'd been going all day long. I would get an exercise in, work out in another day. That's fine. It doesn't all have to happen in one day. But my mentality back then was just so hyper-focused that just wouldn't have been allowed. I would have punished myself. I would have beaten myself up internally. I would have skipped meals. And so it is this yo-yo diet cycle. It's a real thing that you can get stuck in. And that's the point of this entire podcast, really, is to get us out of that diet culture and into trusting ourselves again with our body in all aspects of self-care. You really do know what's best for yourself. And your values are going to be different than your neighbors. And it's important for you to feel like you're living in alignment with your values. And a big part of that is about choosing what feels good and supportive, not just in the moment, but overall. It's empowering to make choices that resonate with who I am rather than conforming to external pressures. It's empowering to be able to recognize that eating a whole sleeve of Oreos at night doesn't truly make me feel good, even though in the moment I'm telling myself it will. But enjoying a few as part of a balanced day, having some throughout the day, aligns with my values around both health and pleasure. And so today's experiment is to reflect on your own values. Maybe you can identify your top 3 and ask if they're reflected in how you're living day to day right now. I didn't want to list too many values because I'd like you to think of your own. I think it's important to just take a moment, take a deep breath, and reflect for yourself. And it's perfectly fine to need help and have ideas, and you can do that. There are some really excellent resources to explore values further. James Clear has, Atomic Habit, his book, and he also has a website which offers a list of values that, might resonate with you. So I definitely recommend going to his website. And just remember that the goal isn't to fix yourself. You're already enough, and you're worthy of love and acceptance right now. You're not broken. Our aim here is simply to feel good, to live each day feeling aligned and more empowered. It's not about perfection. It's about honoring yourself and your needs. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, be kind and be yourself. Everyone else is already taken.